Welcome back to Discovering Inspiration. I'm your host, Dominick Domasky, and I truly believe that inspiration is everywhere. I also believe that inspiration comes from the toughest conversations and sometimes the darkest places. Today, I'm going to have my good friend, Paul Hlabse, on the show. He's the author of a new book, Violent Disturbance, and really, the guy's creating a whole new genre, a genre of true crime mixed with fiction, mixed with whodunit, mixed with what would you do. I can't wait for you to meet my friend Paul. I hope you enjoy our conversation. So Paul from Perry, Ohio, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. A lot of P's there for the intro, but happy to be here, Dom. Thanks for discovering me and giving me a chance.
Hey man, your book came across and it was such a beautiful thing that I was so excited to be part of it. And I am so excited as you have this launch. One of the things that I'm going to get right in because I have read this book, so I know a little bit about it, a little about you. I notice that Perry, Ohio is at the forefront of this story. It's like almost like an undertone. I love story arcs and things like that. I see almost like a love for Perry, Ohio. Is that where you're from and why the love for Perry, Ohio?
Yeah, Perry is near and dear to my heart. We moved here when I was 7, so about 36 years ago. And my parents are still here. They live about 5 miles from me now. My dad is a member of the church here in the community where I was confirmed. I still go to that church now. We built and bought our first house in the village here. We just bought property to build our second, raising a family here. My brother's buried in the cemetery right down the street. Right now I'm going for village council. So it's a city that's very important to me. The people here I grew up with, everyone I know from the stores, all the way through church, through friends, acquaintances. It's a very close-knit community for having about 4,000, 5,000 people now and growing. But it made sense for me to write the book about it because it was so instrumental in who I am as a person. And it's kind of what I live on a daily basis as being part of this community.
The love for Perry clearly shows, and it makes me, admittedly, I know Paul's from Ohio and I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm from Pittsburgh, so we should be like dueling rivals at all things. But the love you showed for Perry makes me think I got to get up there and see what's going on and understand why Paul loves it the way he does. So when you had a chance to write this book, so you're writing a book and you have this love for Perry, how do you figure out in your mind how to mix fiction and real life together?
Yeah, that was early on. I was trying to think about how do I describe my story in terms that not only can I articulate clearly, but something that would be familiar to kind of pay homage to where I'm from and what I believe in. And although a lot of things in the book about Perry aren't exactly the way that they're portrayed, there's enough Easter eggs for those in the community that'll read it and say, "Oh, I know where that bar is," or "Oh, I know where he's talking about that supermarket." So there's enough of that in there. But I wanted to focus on the story that I didn't want to spend a lot of my creativity worried about making up a city at this point. So I figured let's write from what I know, from what I've experienced in my life, and then I'm going to put the majority of my energy into really articulating the story and just blend it into what I'm already living.
When I look at you, I see a jack dude. I'm saying jack because you're a muscular dude, and you are. I know you're in the world of manufacturing. So, do you find it, and does your friends or family or coworkers do they find it odd, or do they know this softer side, this writer side of Paul? Is this it's almost like two worlds colliding, and now it's out there? What say you about that?
Yes, definitely a little bit of collision course. Even my wife, up until a few years ago, when she saw the first few chapters and said, "You have to finish this," she was like, "I always knew you were kind of, the softer one out of the two of us in a relationship, and that's fine. I'm an emotional guy, but as far as work, they know me as finding the data, analyzing the data, problem solving, going back, making changes, and just serious from the word go." And now they have a chance to see me be in a world of fiction, still be descriptive, but they love how it just kind of blends who I was and who I am in a job and personality wise just this outgoing person that they've seen in the meetings. And they're like, you have two masters. You should be talking a certain way or acting. No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. It's just who I am as a person. So they are very supportive, and they're actually eyebrows raised when I told them, hey, look, I have a book, and they bought a couple already in pre-order. They are just anxious and excited and said, I think this can be something special.
Is it hard to put yourself out there to these people? You know, here's Paul as I was, Paul, the cool guy working wood and all stuff like that. And now when they see this other side, do you kind of have some reservation? Like, people are my buddy that I tilt the beers with, they're going to bust my chops. And how do you manage that?
Yes, it is a whole different world. It is very uncomfortable. I'm starting to become a little comfortable, but I'm okay with being uncomfortable because that's just pushing what your limits are. And,
Yeah.
and the only way you're going to succeed and go further in life is if you push past what's comfortable. So, yeah, I think a couple of them would be, I mean, they've already kind of busted my chops. I shared a reel the other day, and honestly, it wasn't fake. It brought me to tears. This story was horrific, and it made me think of my daughter, and it just brought the emotion out. And even walking through the halls, they're like, Paul, really, man, like that's a bit much. I said, it's not a bit much. It's real. That's who I am. That's who I am. I feel deeply, and we all should feel deeply. So, yeah, to bring up your point, it's, I like you, but I don't want to see that much of you on social media. And I said, okay, well, I get that. But to everyone out there who doesn't know me, I'm an open book. You are going to see the best part of me, the worst part of me. You're going to see the real me. And when you buy a book from me or you choose to follow me in the future, you are just going to get a genuine, honest, hardworking father, husband, and that's me. There's nothing hidden there.
It's good stuff. And from what I've seen so far, you are the real deal. I'm taken by this light and dark, this faith and questioning throughout the book. I find an undertone of light and dark, and it's almost like what you're talking about here, like somebody saying, "Oh, this isn't you, Paul." Or I think in this book, there's a lot of highs, lows. I felt like I was on a ride, really. So can you speak to that? Does that come from somewhere, or where does the light and dark come from?
Sure. When I write, I try to mimic what I've been through in life. And unfortunately, life is not linear. You do not get to stay on a high all the time, and you do not get to stay on a low. There are seasons, as I call them, in life. And when you're on a high, you have to ride them and see them through. When you're on a low, you don't stop. You don't grieve. You don't take too long in that lull. You push forward because seasons are not long lived. They will end. There will be light at the end of that, just like in light, there will be dark. There are reasons opposites exist. And so when I write, as much as I want to write a feel good story all the way through, characters go through things, and every character goes through something. And just like in life, we don't know what our fellow man or woman is going through. When I write, I want to let the reader in on, hey, there's a lot more to every single person than just, oh, this is someone's friend. Well, no, this someone's friend might be going through X, Y, and Z, or they may have a decision that's going to ripple to this person. And that's kind of where it comes from for me, is that I've had a lot of lows, but I've also had some great highs in life. And I don't regret the lows because I wouldn't be able to appreciate the highs. And that's where I'm in. And that's how I write.
Paul Hlabse, Violent Disturbance. The characters in the book, do they come from true crime, real life mixed with Paul? Because you just mentioned there's a high, there's a low, there's a Paul. Now, the characters in the book, is everybody Paul in some way? Or yeah, I'm wondering that now. Is every character Paul at a different point? Go on.
It is interesting because I think the very best of the characters are who I want to be and I aspire to be. And the very worst are characters that maybe I can put myself in their shoes. So to your point, I think they all kind of blend a little bit in there. Some of them are based a little bit on some real characters in my life, but it's nice to put part of you in each one. And then I just let it organically flow from there. And then they go in, be somebody I would never think about being or would want to be.
Yeah.
And I just kind of let the story go from there. But you're right. There is a little bit of Paul in each. You'll probably see more Paul and Joseph than any other character.
before you get into the characters,
Mhm.
give us a rundown first of what the book's about. Just a basic bio, what Paul thinks the book's about, and then give us some of these characters you just started
Yeah.
talking about. Go on.
Yeah. So Violent Disturbance, it just really explores how human behavior, how we handle tragedy, unexpected tragedy in life, and especially in a small town. This takes place in Perry, but there is a traumatic experience early on in the book, and it affects one character in particular who makes decisions based on that affects the entire town. Um, it explores kind of where do we go as far as, what if we were to not handle grief a certain way? What if we were to try to take justice in our own hands? What if we were not okay with the way law enforcement was handling things? What if we turned our back on God, said, I got this, I can do it alone, I don't need anyone? What would happen? And that's what this book explores in detail, of all those questions either being answered positively or negatively. Even positive actions have consequences. And you'll see that through the whole book. And there'll be a lot of instances that the reader is not ready for, that I won't spoil here, but they may hate me a little bit. They may love me a little bit. And you're going to get a little bit of that mix, but that's life. And that's kind of what the book explores.
I'm super excited as I'm selfishly, Motivation Champs is the publisher of the book, and we're thrilled to be part of it. This, guys, anybody listening, this is a good book. Manuscripts come through every day, and I don't always see manuscripts like this. And Paul has some talent. So we're going to talk to your friends, your buddies, whoever. This dude has some talent, so you better have his back. Now, Paul, tell me who Paul is on a normal day. Paul, what does Paul do before he was this writer and during this writer? Because I think when you have this massive success that you're going to be as a writer, I don't think you're going to change that much. So who is Paul on the normal day? What's this guy all about?
Yeah, a normal day. I mean, I wake up, I experience life to the fullest as much as I can, and normally I'm up by 5 a.m. every single morning. A quick prayer, brush my teeth, get my lunch together. We're out the door. We go to work Monday through Friday. I'm there from 6 to 3 or 5:30 to 3 in manufacturing. But during that time, I'm problem solving, and then when I come home, it's husband father mode. I spend all my time intentionally with my family now. It's not what I was before I wrote. Before I had Parker, I would do what I want. I'd selfish, maybe I'd go golfing, maybe I'd go to the bar, maybe I'd do a lot of maybes. But now it's let's have some experiences, but make them intentional about where we're going forward. It's not about negative vibes out there. It's about positivity. So that's kind of who I am on a daily basis. But when combining all those things is I still pretend that I can do CrossFit sometimes. I'm pretty beat up. I'm old, but I do what I can. I try to stay as fit as I can. And then on weekends, again, it's where can we go? Can we go? Let's go to Cancun this week. We just pull trips right out of the hat because it's something we want to do and be spontaneous. But as a writer, honestly, what I would really love to do is to just get up, be able to write early in the morning, spend time with my family, write maybe in the afternoon, write at night. I do that anyhow now, but that's really what I'm passionate about. And I think that's what would change if the story is worthy to gain success, and that I will continue to write. That is not going to change whether it's successful or not, because I enjoy it. But that's who I will be going forward. But who I am right now is just a husband, father, good, honest, God-fearing man.
And nobody cares about this but me, but that's how, are you a Browns fan too? Because I mentioned Browns, Steelers, we're nearby. So
It's tough. It's tough because there was a time where not too long, well, it's probably a little while ago, but the whole weekend was based upon the football game. I mean, it was what bar are we going to go to, or what restaurant, or whose house are we going to go to? And we'll start early and we'll stay late. And it's just the product on the field is just pure crap week
eh,
after week. And I'm sitting on, we're supporting this, and I'm letting something I have no control over literally ruin my entire Sunday and week. So it's not that I'm a fair weather fan. Obviously, I'm Cleveland through and through, but I'll support the Gardos and the Cavs before the Browns. But of course, I'll watch them. I mean, I'm getting ready for a 4-win season this year, probably, right?
that's fair. Now let's get into something you can control, though. That is good. The violent disturbance. What do you hope that the reader gets out of the book? They sit down,
Mhm.
they support Paul. And now when they pick up this book, what do you hope they leave with?
I actually hope that this book creates questions for them in their life. I want them to not just read it and say, "Oh, it's entertaining, such and such happened." I would love for them to walk away or during the course say, "Oh, how would I have handled that differently?" And more importantly, how would I handle the situation I'm going through differently? Whether it's, battling generational alcoholism, whether it's dealing with grief or tragedy, whether it's they're not the biggest fan of law enforcement for whatever reason because something happened. How do they cope with those? And can they see themselves making the same moves as the characters, or is there something else? So when they get through with the book, I want them to be satisfied first in the story and how it played out, but also that I've given them the energy and the respect for them to make their own decisions based on what they think should happen to the characters and how to interpret that. I've given them enough clues throughout the book to on how I would like to see things go. But if they don't have interest in the story, then I haven't done my job as a storyteller. So I think I owe it to them and all their intelligence to read it, comprehend it, and really walk away with more questions than perhaps answers. But those questions shouldn't be, "Oh, the book left me completely hanging. I have no idea what happened." It should be, "I'm starting to think about maybe I do need to handle something different. Maybe that one decision affected the three relationships. I should call my brother I haven't talked to in 20 years." I mean, I'm hoping it starts to rekindle some of the pain that exists.
You mentioned some pain, you mentioned some tragedy, and you mentioned a brother passing previously. And I don't know much, I don't know about that. So could you speak to some of maybe the trial and tribulation that you've been through that has led to some of this awareness and maybe even how Paul writes?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm actually honored enough to be writing a story for Mission Hope Volume 8 with a huge collaboration of authors now, and it's going to explore this in perhaps more detail. We'll see. But like I said, I'm an open book and I write from pain. I've written from tragedy, from depression. I mean, there was a time, and to be completely transparent, where I was sitting in a house that was foreclosed that I no longer owned with no utilities on with one table. And I was drinking in excess and there was a handgun in the house. And for a split second, I thought maybe this would be easy, right? And never really did it get to any past that. But for the rock bottom of my life, I said, like, what the hell am I doing? I have people that love me. I have friends that support me. I made some bad decisions, but those don't define me. And it took to hit rock bottom, to lose the house, to lose my job, to lose my girlfriend, to lose it all, to sleep in my Jeep for the next 2 weeks because I was afraid to ask for help. It took all of that to really say, okay, I'm meant for something else. This is not what God had planned for me. He gave me enough signs. I didn't pay attention. So here's my final sign. And from that time, just the years and years progressed. But that was the rock bottom. And I hit some highs. But a few years later, my handicapped brother was diagnosed with cancer. And I only say preface that he was handicapped was because his outlook was ridiculous. He's a patron saint of our family by far. He was in the nursing home with just an open wound that wouldn't heal on his back and kidney failure. And he'd be in and out of comas. We didn't know, how long he had. And he would ride his wheelchair and eventually lost the use of his legs. And he would push up and down the hallways to go to other residents. "Hey, how you doing?" Smile on his face. He lost a lot of his ability to talk. So he would slur a lot and he was hard to understand, but he would have me as a woodworker build him basic birdhouses and he would paint them with the use of one of his arms and he would deliver these to residents in the house. And just, he would always smile every time I went down there. "Hey, Paul, how you doing? How's your life?" And I'm sitting here like, and I had the audacity to almost give up. This guy's not giving up. I said, "What?" And he had a terrible hand dealt to him his whole life, and he still smiles and moves forward. So from that's been my motivation, and especially how I write too. It's you start something, you finish it. I mean, my brother, he's been dead almost 10 years now, and I didn't have a chance to put that last birdhouse in his hands to paint, and I put it in his casket. I know whether you believe in heaven and hell, I do. He's up there. He was an angel on earth, and I know he's up there with God now. And it just that was probably the downside is to see yourself so low, but to see someone else who he should have been low, right? by all judgment, he could have given up a million times and said, God, you made me handicapped. You took away some of my sight, my ability to walk. I've been in and out of comas. Like, I should be dead. But no, he kept smiling. He kept going to other residents. How are you doing? Here's a birdhouse. And so that's been motivating for me to say, okay, anytime I'm feeling low, no, you have to honor your brother because he pushed through what you're way worse than what you've ever experienced. So don't you dare give up.
That's beautiful stuff. And while you're talking, I'm learning more about you, but this reminds me, I noticed lately you've been putting up some stories of like things like other kind of media stories going on where these kind of things are happening where people are hurt or taken advantage of or there's loss in their lives and kind of highlighting these stories. So as you say this, I remember the other day you posted one about a little boy who was burned, tied up and burned by another person and had this unique perspective of positivity, even though he had these hardships and he was burned over 90% of his body or like a high portion of his body. He lived the best life he could after that, which reminds me of this brother that you speak of. So now I'm trying to put two and two together here of I'm going back to somebody who doesn't know your story, doesn't know about your brother, doesn't know that maybe this tough guy I'm looking at doesn't know what he's been through. So they see the armor and here's a story. I wonder in that story, if you'd speak to it briefly, did it remind you of your brother in a way?
It did because he was older than that. But even I remember when I was in middle school and I would always hang out with my brothers. I was never ashamed of them. And kids are mean and they would constantly rip on them. And when I'd go bowling, one of my brothers, I have two handicapped brothers that are handicapped. Randy couldn't drive, but he would go with Brad, who would drop us off at the bowling alley. And these kids they would constantly say, "Hey, Paul, why are you hanging around with the retards? And why is that retard driving you?" And they didn't comprehend how hurtful that was, but I did. And I've got two tattoos on my arm right now. That's fight to protect the weak and fight to keep the truth. And those are two things that I live and die by. And it did remind me of this young kid on his 8th birthday. And he was just out celebrating, walking around his farm, and a neighbor tied him up, burned him 90%. He should have been dead by all accounts. He never died. And then to say later in life, hey, let's stop talking about it. Past is in the past. Are you kidding me? So it's crazy. Humanity is so strong. We can act so bad and be so heinous, but there's positivity everywhere. And that's one thing that drew me to working with you is the motivation is to leave this place in a better place than where we came. Is like, even my message early on, I wasn't sure how the book was going to play out. And you said, Paul, there's a message of positivity here. And I didn't see it at first because I was so focused on just writing, the bad things that can happen and come from that. And then I started thinking about it. There's a lot of healing from these characters too. There's a lot of healing. And I need to start framing my mind to think about more of that positivity. So the long answer is yes. When I see people that can't defend themselves get picked on, quite frankly, that really pisses me off and it just causes a bunch of emotion. So I think it's all of our duty. If we can step in and help when we can, we should.
Yeah. Touche, my friend. I live in a world where I'm so thankful that I had a dad who taught me to be tough and a mom who, even when I had big teeth and a little big giant belly, she told me how handsome I was. And I think, like you, shouldn't I be so grateful and thankful that they taught me, that they protected me, that they gave me this strength? Don't I owe it? Don't me and Paul owe it to the other people? Don't each of us owe it to defend, like you're saying that? Defend your brothers, your two brothers. Man, I honor those. Are you able to hold your tattoos up and can we see them on camera? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I've got
I don't think this is, yeah. Can we even do that? I don't know if this works.
I think you got a couple of, but you've got fight to protect the weak on that arm and then fight to keep the truth here. But yeah, I've got about 70% of my body tattooed from my neck to my ankle. So you can't see much. I keep it covered in professional, but yeah, the bald head, the beard, the tattoos.
I respect it 100%. I like I said, I'm even more impressed with you after hearing this. Before we go, I'm so into story arcs, and we're gonna get nerdy here for a second.
Hmm.
So I'm so into story arcs from like Uncle Tom's Cabin, or a story like Gone with the Wind. There's these multiple arcs and everything like that. So in your book, you got the love for Perry. There's a component of Paul that we talked about. There's all these different characters. Now, I see an arc of faith and almost, I don't want to spoil, almost a question of faith. Can you speak to that for a moment?
Yes, that is a main arc that not only did I want to explore, but I think is more common in all of us than we care to admit. And I think it's become taboo to even question that, especially growing up Catholic. How dare I ever speak or say, you know what, I'm not okay with him right now. I think I have some questions. We weren't really open to do that. Nowadays, I believe you can really have those conversations, and a lot of social media has done that. But in the book, that arc of faith, and I wanted all the characters to experience it, because even the worst of characters, there was still something there. They knew something was there that was like, man, this isn't right. Even though they do really bad things over and over again, and it becomes habitual at that point, they knew that there was something there. And that something in this book, the overlying factor is it's God. And the characters go through a lot of, I support God, I love God, God's great, he always gives me what I need. But that doesn't always equate to us expecting it to be a positive reaction. Some of the people that believe the most in God have gone through hell. I mean, Job is, I consider this story of violent disturbance to be almost a modern day story of Job. I mean, he had one of the worst stories in the Bible that you can go through, but God gave him so much more when he went through it. And I think that's what we explore here is you'll see God fearing individuals that are faithful experience some loss and have to go through things, and how do they react? And then you see others where they don't believe in anything and they seem to get more out of it than the others who are suffering. And the tables will switch there too. So, yes, it was definitely a big arc on should we question our faith? How is it if we go on it alone? What if I just decided to throw my hands up and say, oh, nothing made us. We just kind of popped here. Like, how does that go? And how does our life look when we don't have anything to really answer to?
Well done. Paul, if you would, I'm just so thankful to sit down with you today, but if you would, before we go, could you give so many people suffering, you mentioned that, the ups and downs, the cycle of life, could you give like a final message to the person that might be out there hurting, that might be in one of those down cycles? And then how could we get a hold of you and support you, my friend?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No matter whatever you're going through right now, pain, suffering, it's temporary. It's temporary. Please don't feel like you are going at it alone. In life, it could be your family member, your spouse, your friend. It might even be the barista that's at Starbucks or Dunkin'. You don't know who can help you unless you really put yourself out and be vulnerable enough to try. And if you don't have anyone, you have me. You can reach out to me at Paul Hlabse Official on Instagram, www.paulhlabse.com. Not only is that where you can get the books that will already be on Amazon and everywhere worldwide by the time you get this, but you want to reach out, you need a prayer warrior, you need someone to talk to, you want me to listen. I don't have to give advice. I've been there. I know what you're going through. I've been in the darkest of dark. So let's get to the light together. And if you have a chance to help someone, I don't care what walk of life they are, you are not better than anyone. You are not less than anyone. You walk, you keep your head up, you do something nice for someone, it could really make a difference. Just keep moving forward.
Paul Hlabse, Violent Disturbance. Support this guy. Check him out. He's going to do big things. This has been Discovering Inspiration, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.